Hey, I'm Sen Masterson, one of the co-founders and mentors on Mentoring Men. And recently one of our members who reached out to ask a question regarding sexless marriage. And his question was, how do I go about leading in the sex, romance, and intimacy department and yet not create pressure? Because I don't want to create pressure, because pressure is often based on dependency and neediness. And yet if I go and I try to initiate according to what I want, my wife says, stop pressuring me. And I feel like, well, how am I supposed to resolve this issue of pressure, right? Because I'm trying to be who I am, and yet when I am who I am, she says I'm pressuring her and says, no, get away from me. And this is really a little bit of a nuanced topic to sort out. Now, the red pill people who get on and watch this video say, oh, just let her go, man, get another woman. And you're certainly welcome to do that, right? Some people will do that. That's definitely the nuclear option. But a wise and skillful man can turn this around without doing that. And if that's you and you want to listen further about what to do, let me explain to you how to understand this a little differently. There are two kinds of pressure that a woman will feel regarding sex. One of them you are responsible for, and one of them you are not. The first kind, the kind you're responsible for, is the pressure a woman feels when you are a needy man, when you're a dependent man. And the reason she's feeling pressure there is because when you lead in the sex and romance department, you're not leading the both of you to an exchange of intimacy and connection. You're trying to lead yourself and her to a moment where you get something that you need. And it's not sex, it's something that you get from sex. And for most men, it's a sense of validation, a sense of affirmation, a sense of well-being, a sense of being okay. And this is an improper, unhealthy use of sex. It's what immature and insecure men do. Immature, insecure men use sex as a strategy to fulfill deeper needs about themselves, things that have nothing to do with sex, things that have to do about existential concerns like, am I a good man? Am I okay? Am I secure? Am I safe? And that kind of insecure, needy motivation to seek out sex as a strategy for that is a kind of motivation that will absolutely produce pressure in a female partner. She will rightfully interpret that moment as icky, as gross, and not something that she wants. She'll feel the expectation, she'll feel the need, and she will repel it. To her, it feels actually just like the kind of neediness that an infant or toddler might express by pulling on her shirt sleeve and coming into the room and saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And when a woman feels that from a man, it's the huge buzzkill, huge turnoff, and it's pressure. And that kind of pressure, you absolutely, in a marriage, need to address. It is a problem, it is your responsibility, and you need to kill that kind of pressure by addressing the root insecurity that you have about yourself that is manifesting itself in these bids for sex to fulfill or to pacify your insecurity. Now, if you've done that, there's another kind of pressure that's created in any monogamous relationship simply by the fact that you have committed yourselves to a monogamous relationship with someone else. A great metaphor for this is suppose your wife says, "Hey, I'm going to get up. I have a hair appointment at 7:30 in the morning, an hour away, and I need to be there on time," right? And so Saturday morning rolls around and she gets up at, if she's like my wife, probably like 5:30 to make sure she gets ready. Then she does everything necessary to get herself to the hair appointment on time. Now that process is going to be very pressuring for my wife, right? She's going to feel the pressure of having to get up early, the pressure of having to get herself ready according to a clock, the pressure of having to drive the hour to the hair salon, and she's going to feel all of that kind of when she gets there. But in the meantime, I know my wife well enough to know she's going to be a little frantic about it, and she's going to feel all that pressure along the way. Now, The hair salon and the hairstylist are not creating that pressure. My wife is actually creating the pressure by signing herself up for an event that now has, some structure to it, a place, a time, and something that she is actually signed up for and sought out herself. It's fair to say that in a monogamous relationship, some of the similar things are there too. When you commit yourself to being one another's sole outlet for sexual intimacy, romantic connection, and things like that, it's implicit in there that you're the other person's only source for this, right? And so that has or carries with it a certain amount of pressure that is just baked into the system. It's not caused by the partner, it's caused by the commitment. And what ends up happening in a sexless marriage is that usually if the partner that wants sex the least becomes the partner that ends up controlling the frequency and really every other aspect about the intimacy. And they basically lose sight that the pressure that they're feeling is not always from a needy man. Now, many times when we speak to men, it is. That actually is where the pressure begins. The pressure starts as an insecure man trying to use sex as a bid to solve his insecurity. But once he starts to remove that, she still feels pressure, but she feels the pressure of monogamy, not the pressure of neediness. And it takes some time for her to sort out, and sometimes professional help, that's not pressure from him. That's pressure from the commitment she made to the relationship. And so it's easy for a man who's feeling insecure and who's trying to sort this out to mistake his wife feeling pressure as some sort of evidence that he is dependent and insecure, when in fact it's not. Sometimes it's just evidence that she's feeling pressure and it has nothing to do with him. And so what do you do in these moments? What you do is twofold. The very first thing you have to do is refuse to own the pressure of monogamy or the responsibility for that pressure. It's not yours to own as a man. It's each partner's responsibility to work out whatever internal dilemma there is related to the commitment to one another that they made. And if they can't, it's their responsibility to exit the relationship. Now, having said that, that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do as the man is refuse to blunt or edit or change your authentic sexual nature because it could cause the other person to feel that the pressure of monogamy. And so this is what a lot of guys do, especially men in the sexless marriages, because they spent so much time hiding their authentic self that this is just their normal MO, right? They don't know how to just be authentic as sexual men. They feel shame about their sexual interest. They feel shame about their desire. They feel ashamed about their passion. And it's usually because, or often because, the other partner who doesn't want it as much is gaslighting and shaming them to a degree because they don't want to deal with the pressure of monogamy. And you have to have some wisdom to understand that this is going on in your life. First, by knowing I'm not being needy. I want to share this part of my being, which is healthy and normal, my sexuality, and I'm not going to hide it. And so the very first part of this for a man is to get comfortable with being a sexual man. Stop hiding it. Stop being flaccid and be firm. Be firm in your desire to be sexual. Stop apologizing for it. Own it, right? Initiate it. Let your wife know what you want. Now, that's going to be tested a little bit. If you don't want it badly enough, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get shamed into the corner. If a partner feels pressure, the pressure of monogamy, you're going to retreat with your tail between your legs, and you're not going to be intimate. And the issue there then is kind of twofold. One, your partner is refusing to just deal with the monogamy pressure, and so they're putting that pressure on you by kind of misdirecting it. And if you don't know how to hang on to yourself in that moment, meaning you mistake their shaming and their pushing it onto you as an occasion for you to retreat, well, then you'll go hide. You'll go try to like blunt your sexual interest. You'll go try to blunt your desire, your masculinity, and you'll go off and feel cuckolded. And that's not helpful. That actually just keeps giving birth to the same thing. And so this is one of the key challenges then for men in sexless relationships is you don't want sex and a sexual relationship badly enough to stand up for yourself when it comes to that desire. In fact, you want something else more than that. You want safety and security. You want the love of this woman, for example. You want to stay married. You want to not have to overcome fear, the fear of conflict, which conflict-avoidant men are oftentimes sexless men for this reason. And for this reason, you're putting all these things ahead of your sexual desire. You put your sexual desire at the bottom of the pile, and because of that, because it's not really that important to you, you just sit there and you stew in resentment, you stew in anger at the person who's not giving it to you, when in reality, you're not fighting for yourself because you don't value that part of yourself enough to take hard action that could be consequential. And for this reason, we see a lot of guys get stuck in sexless marriages for decades. And the reason they're there for decades is because they don't value their sexuality enough. And I know that's a hard thing to hear, but it's true. They allow themselves to get really shamed and kind of their sexuality blunted and filed off, and they hide and they suppress, and they just turn it secret. Maybe they express that in some sort of, hidden fantasy, obsession, illicit behavior, affairs, strip clubs, porn, all that stuff. Men are doing all of that really because they don't know how to live as an unapologetically sexual man in a monogamous relationship where they say, this is who I am, I'm not being anyone else, and it's more important to me to be this way than to stay in a relationship where I can't be this way. And it's that man, the man who loves himself and the way he is, that loves his sexuality as part of himself, that is the only man that will generally have a healthy sexual relationship. Because for that man, it matters enough to him to go to bat for himself. It matters enough to him to shed from his life any relationship that asks him to be something he's not. And if you're not willing to do that, you'll compromise. You'll put your sexuality at the bottom of the pile, and you'll sit there, like I said, and you'll live a miserable life. You'll be angry, deeply resentful. We see this all the time. Deeply victimized, and you'll develop malice and hatred and animosity, and you'll get to your deathbed and say, why did I fritter my whole life away? Who did I do it for? What did I get for it? And listen, I know these are complicated things, way more complicated than we could talk to you about in one video, even 10 videos. It takes us really, to be honest, between 6 and 18 months to help a man through the many landmines and pitfalls of a sexless marriage, but we're here to help you with that, and we know a lot about it. We've helped a lot of men through it. We are helping a lot of men through it. It's very emotionally complicated. It's very psychologically complicated, and we have a lot of compassion and a lot of care for men in that boat. And so if you are watching this, you're one of those guys, you want to understand the landscape a little bit better, you want to understand kind of some of these ins and outs, I would love to talk to you about it. If you scroll down below, you'll find a link where you can set up a call with myself or one of the other mentors in our platform, and we'll have a consultation with you where we'll just talk about you. We'll talk about your relationship, your life, how'd you get here, what do you want, what's in the way of what you want, this kind of thing. There'll be no sales pitch, totally complimentary, and you'll feel seen and heard and understood and hopefully encouraged. If you'd like that, that's available below. Just click the link, and Until then, I hope to see you on the other side of this camera, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.